Hey everyone, 8.22 changed a lot more than we probably thought, but since it is the end of the season and it's winding down now, here are a few pocket picks that are doing a lot better and maybe a few things that you could try out once the season is done. It's going to be some proper stuff, but also some stuff like mid lane Nocturne, which is something Korea loves to mess around with, but this patch is actually up there with the big boys. The build would be something like getting a Temu early, then a Duskblade, your boots, Essence Reaver, Guardian Angel, Ravenous Hydra, and then finishing it off with maybe even a ship. It's really good in the lane phase and it's proper deadly. You push really well and then you roam amazingly because obviously you have an ultimate that is designed for a jungler. Teammate helps you push a ton, but you get cooldown reduction and mana from Essence Reaver, and then when you've ultied, you can use more abilities, especially with lethal tempo because you're going to attack so fast. You've even got an inbuilt spell shield, right, which helps a ton with laning and dueling mages who rely on their spells for a lot of their damage if they ever want to kill you. That is partly why he can work so well versus stuff like Kassadin or LeBlanc, but also he outduels other melees most of the time as well, like an Aurelia or a Zed. You have to remember that wave clear was nerfed for almost all mid laners like earlier in the season, but obviously Nocturne wasn't because he's not really a mid laner. So he pushes really hard with his passive cleave, his Temu, and his Q, and then he roams freely around the map with his long range ultimate. Once you're out of lane as well, you're basically just got this massive assassin, kind of like a jungler, but who does more damage because he has more items. It's like playing with a Zed or a Talon almost. You kind of want to think of it like that. It's actually a lot like if you put together Talon and Twisted Fate. This is a really good way of putting it, actually. You've got a constant threat of impacting other lanes and blowing them up. And as soon as Nocturne goes missing, like a couple of seconds later, he could be in another lane. A lot of people don't know this, but Nocturne's Q has a 75% AD ratio and his ultimate is 120%. Now, those are really high. That means you're going to have more gold from the mid lane from farming more creeps than the jungler. You have more AD then, and it makes your abilities hurt way more than you would normally expect from a Nocturne. This next one is focusing around jungle Aatrox, but it's not just that, it's also top lane Aatrox, but both using Aftershock. It's the same reason it works on like Lissandra right now. In a way, you dive into a fight and at the very start you survive a lot longer, which just helps you do everything a little bit better. It's also great in 1v1 fights because you have a free 2.5 seconds while Aftershock is active where you don't really take any damage anymore. This page is actually really cool because you're tanky but you heal for a ton at the same time. You've got Revitalize at the bottom of Resolve, you're healing for 5% more or 10% more at lower health, and you have the Ravenous healing from Domination. Jungle Aatrox is going to be building stuff like Blue Smite to kind of get on top of them, like your Tabbies, your Black Cleaver, your Ghost Spade, your Sterix, your Guardian Angel, so it's not actually that different. The general idea is that if somebody wants to get close to you, then Aatrox is great in the jungle. So like a Lee Sin or a Xin Zhao or Gragas or Jarvan, like if they're hitting you in melee range, then you should probably win. In general, in the jungle, he ganks okay. He does a lot of damage though. That's mainly what you're going to bring. You farm well with all your AoE damage, and he's kind of like similar to Xin Zhao really. And at level 6 as well, he becomes a diving machine. It's actually insane. He can go on there with his ultimate and then just drop the aggro afterward. You can also run Electrocute if you want to, or Aftershock with Sorcery Secondary for a Nimbus Cloak. Either way, he's really strong and it's a pretty cool pocket pick for the jungle that's just a little bit different. Maokai is actually going to make a mention in this video, and we joked about how the Maokai buffs in this patch were absolutely awful. They increased his E sapling damage by 1% and lowered the cooldown by 1 second. Riot said it was supposed to help his jungle clear. The saplings obviously going up that little bit of damage, but that's 2% from a bush because it's doubled. Actually, it gave more of a boost to support Maokai than anything else. He has not played a ton, but he's technically got the highest win rate right now for supports in Korea. A quick thing, by the way, you probably don't want to be going against poke with this like a Zyra or something, but it seems to work really well versus any squishy that you can get on top of and then just smash. So Ziggs is insane on him as well. It's such an underrated item. It's really good on any kind of engage, but good stats, and he also makes use of the damage boost insanely well. Maokai is designed to jump in and then glue on top of that person, right? So his AD carries attacks will do 50% more damage for basically the entire duration. You've also kind of got like 3 ways to peel in your kit or engage if you want to actually, but some poke early with the saplings, and then you've got like Knight's Vow and Locket to try and keep somebody alive. So it's actually really useful to have. You're tanky, you do pretty good damage, you've got good crowd control, definitely like a very underrated kill lane for the bot lane, and has really good setup for ganks as well with how long he can lock somebody in place. We might as well just stay with supports, honestly. We've got another one for the video, which is Zyra support. A bit more standard. Zyra is actually now the best early game support in Korea and one of the best overall. I think we've got to kind of like drag this back a few patches to the Liandry's buff. This is the major thing. It now deals more percentage damage, and that part is really good if you can apply constantly. The good thing for Zyra is since her plants are applying that Liandry's, then they get a huge buff and her damage is much higher than it was going to be before. That is why you're going to rush this item, and I've actually never seen this before so high, but if you pick up a Liandry's first item, then you tend to win about 60% of games apparently. It must be partly because you're probably going to be a little bit fed if you get it first, but even so, the item is crazy and it does a lot of the work for you. You have to do pretty much nothing yourself. She can bully, she pokes well, and she does well against most stuff, especially melee. Supports, if they get close and they try to use Targons, you just hard punish every single time with your your root into plants poke. The thing is, you will legit top the damage charts with Zyra support, and you'll probably be more dangerous than the AD for a very long time. It's not just the poke either you have to worry about. You have the catch with your root, which with your ultimate as well, especially, can definitely net you a few kills over the game. As well, we're really in like an engage heavy, like focused meta, and in general, Zyra is best when somebody dives onto her team. She drops her plants, she drops her root and her ultimate. Half of the team are trapped, taking huge damage on the ultimate, and the other half are zoned away. It's not just her lane phase. Like, sure, that is amazing, and that is really oppressive. It's hard to farm against her, it's hard to recover, but it's how amazing her team fighting is when there are no real tanks to absorb her damage and champions who just want to go ham and dive into fights. So our other mid laner for today is going to be more normal, but it is going to be Vlad, and it's Aerie Vlad with the move speed build. So we talked about this ages and ages and ages ago. Spellbinder is probably one of the most underrated items in the entire game. It gives you 120 AP base, which is huge, and up to 80 more. On Vlad, it's really good because you have very low cooldowns. You don't run out of mana either, so you can stack this up even faster by spamming your spells. And then you get 50% move speed boost to charge in, which definitely helps. That is why you don't have to take Predator with this setup, like, because you can get into fights anyway. I mean, you can if you want to for more move speed, but it's a little bit overkill. Aerie has some crazy win rates. That's why we're looking at it. We still get the most important parts out of our rune page from domination with the double healing, but then we also get Nimbus move speed and more damage from that. Aerie is just really good for like low cooldown stuff because it doesn't have a cooldown itself and it bounces between them and you, so it's constant poke as long as you're constantly fighting them. He's a monster mid-game champion with this specific setup, and it's more than enough damage to kill people, but it's very hard to get away with the proto belt and then the spellbinder afterwards. The cool thing with this is you can do like just parts of it if you want to. You could just use the item build, you could just use the runes, you can mix and match if you want to. He's especially pretty good versus a Kali apparently if you want to use that as kind of a counter. Like, you can bully her early, and then when she is in her shroud, he could just ult and E to still hit her. Rek'Sai jungle we saw at Worlds, I think, but this honestly is a grinder that could be insane for the end of the season push if you're a jungler. Rek'Sai is one of the best, if not the best, early game jungler. She can end games before 25 minutes better than most others. This is when junglers can really control the game and affect if you win or not, and since it's end of season, everybody tilts a little bit harder and gets more frustrated. Normally, I wouldn't talk about something like this, and it sucks because people rage quit and they feed harder and stuff, but if you camp them constantly like a Rek'Sai can, then you're definitely going to make that more likely to happen. I'm not saying they are going to rage quit or anything like that, but she can tunnel behind even early and start to smash a lane into pieces. If you blow a flash and you get behind them again with a tunnel over the wall, there's nothing they can really do, and it is really frustrating. I guess the point is she's kind of just better at the end of season, like the last few days, if that makes sense. She wins a lot of duels, she farms well, which means she has more time to gank and more time to piss people off. It's a bruiser build as well. Most of the time you have a lot of AD, so a lot of damage, but you're stacking health, so you're not going to get insta blown up either. The only problem that is that if you don't gank and you don't get ahead, you're going to have a pretty rough game. But to be fair, every single time I see Rek'Sai, she like manages to get a few ganks off, and she does get fed because it's just so simple. So if you watch these videos a lot, you know that I tried to cover every single role for at least one champion, and we haven't covered AD or top lane yet, so we're going to be looking at those now. But to be fair, AD carry isn't really as strong now outside of like Lucian and maybe Sivir. Twitch is one of the few that can actually keep up with those two, but only because he's just absolutely insane at 4+ items. It's almost like a ticking time bomb, kind of like a Kassadin. If it goes to about 30 minutes into a game, then you know you're going to be in trouble because Twitch is going to be really strong. All he has to do is pop out of stealth, press R, and his ultimate and runes will take care of the rest just by right clicking. Like, it's very simple. The stealth is amazing for roaming around, creating chaos, getting more kills, but it's also great because you're hard to focus, and in theory, unless you majorly mess it up, they cannot really ever engage onto you. You have to do it to them. The build did shift to 100% crit now because we can stay so far away and stay pretty safe. Even more at lower ranks, by the way, where games go a lot longer in general, this becomes even easier to get that full build. The only ones he loses to right now, like normally in Korea, are Lucian and Sivir because they spank him too hard early and their mid game is just too strong to keep up with. But if you like playing late game and you don't mind just farming for most of the lane phase, then Twitch is a really amazing underrated choice to go with and to grind some LP. Now, to be honest, top lane as well is dominated by like Urgot, Victor, Aatrox, Irelia, a little bit of Jackson, Darius. It's very meta, but the meta breaker is Rengar, and tank Rengar as well. You can go full lethality if you want to become a proper assassin. That's fine, that's perfect, it definitely works and it's very strong. This other build though we're looking at is Black Cleaver, Tabby, Sunfire, Visage, Zhonya's, and Guardian Angel. This is also with Grasp of the Undying as well. It's more damage, but it lets you have better trades in the lane phase, and you are supposed to be a bully with the bushes. Especially with this page, the second wind and the revitalize really does help you keep your health up because you're going to be regenning every single time they hit you, and your W is just a little bit better. But basically, you have a lot of health. You're very tanky, which is amazing for kiting with your empowered W in teamfights to break free of crowd control and move around and just last forever. Your Visage and your Zhonya's means better heals as well, which is kind of partly why you take that, but honestly, you still do a ton of damage even if you're not going to be one-shotting people, and you just refuse to die. It sounds very weird and stupid, but it actually does work really well, and the combination, like, there's a lot of different synergy within this page and with this item build that actually works with top lane Rengar. So a little weirder than normal. Let me know if you enjoyed that or if you want more meta picks, but it's end of season, so why not? Good luck in the last few days of the grind for your LP, but thank you for watching. Give it a thumbs up if you haven't already, but for now, I will leave you with robots.